Every year, over 2 billion people open their refrigerators, pull out a container of leftovers, and place them in a microwave or on a stovetop. They do it without thinking. It is a reflex, an act of convenience we have all performed thousands of times. It is how we were raised. It is what we see in commercials and cooking shows. It is the quiet, unspoken rule of modern life. Cook once, eat twice. But here's the truth that the food industry does not advertise, and that your doctor probably has never mentioned to you. When you reheat certain foods, you are not just warming them up. You are not just making them palatable again. You are fundamentally changing their chemistry at the molecular level. You are creating compounds that were not there before, compounds that have been linked in peer-reviewed studies to cellular damage, DNA mutations, and a measurable increase in cancer risk. This is not speculation. This is not the kind of exaggerated health warning that circulates on social media. This is established, rigorously tested food science. The World Health Organization has classified over a dozen compounds found in common reheated foods as either known or probable carcinogens. The European Food Safety Authority has issued formal guidance on the dangers of reheating certain vegetables. Leading cancer research institutions have published data showing a direct correlation between reheated meat consumption and colorectal cancer. Yet somehow, this information almost never reaches the average kitchen. It sits in academic journals, locked behind paywalls, discussed in conference halls, but never making it to the dinner table. Today, we are going to change that. We are going to explore the molecular mayhem that occurs when you reheat 4 of the most common leftovers in the world. By the end of this video, your relationship with your refrigerator will be permanently different. You will never look at leftover rice, chicken, spinach, or eggs the same way again. Before we get into the specific foods, I need you to understand 3 basic chemical principles. These are the 3 horsemen of reheating, and they will reappear throughout this entire presentation. Think of them as the villains of our story. The first is oxidation. When fats and proteins are exposed to oxygen, which happens constantly during storage, they become chemically unstable. The oxygen molecules collide with the fat molecules, stealing electrons and creating free radicals. When you apply heat to these already damaged molecules, they break down into dangerous byproducts like lipid peroxides and malondialdehyde, both of which are well-documented agents capable of damaging human DNA. The second is the Maillard reaction gone wrong. The Maillard reaction is responsible for the rich flavor and appealing brown color of many cooked foods. It is the reason toast tastes so good, and why seared steak is so delicious. However, when proteins and sugars are repeatedly exposed to high temperatures, they can produce compounds known as advanced glycation end products. These compounds promote chronic inflammation, one of the major biological drivers of cancer development. The third is nitrosamine formation. Certain foods, particularly vegetables, naturally contain nitrates. In their natural form, these nitrates are actually beneficial, supporting cardiovascular health. However, during refrigeration, naturally occurring bacteria on the surface of these foods begin converting those nitrates into nitrites. When you apply heat to these nitrites, they react with amino acids to form nitrosamines. Nitrosamines are among the most potent dietary carcinogens identified by modern science. Animal studies have shown that they can induce cancer at remarkably low doses. Keep these 3 mechanisms in mind, because they are the reason our first food is so dangerous. Here is the first food on our list, and it is the most widely consumed staple on the planet. Rice. Over 3 billion people rely on rice as their primary source of calories. It is the foundation of countless cuisines, from Asian stir-fries to Latin American beans and rice to Middle Eastern pilafs. And billions of those people reheat leftover rice regularly. It is a habit so deeply ingrained we never question it. Cook a large batch on Sunday, eat it all week. It is economical, it is convenient, and it seems completely harmless. But here's the problem. It is not the reheating itself that poses the primary risk. It is what happens to the rice in the time between the first cooking and the second. As cooked rice cools, it becomes a perfect breeding ground for a bacterium known as Bacillus cereus. This is not a rare contaminant. It is naturally present in raw rice, and it survives the initial cooking process. The spores of this bacterium are heat-resistant. They endure the boiling water, and then, as the rice sits at room temperature, or in the refrigerator, they germinate and multiply. As the rice sits, the Bacillus cereus produces heat-resistant toxins. When you reheat the rice, you may kill the bacteria, but you will not destroy the toxins. They survive the microwave, they survive the stovetop, and they enter your digestive system intact. The symptoms of acute Bacillus cereus poisoning are well known: vomiting and diarrhea within hours of consumption. But that is not the primary concern here. The primary concern is much more insidious and much more long-term. The cancer risk associated with reheated rice is not just about a stomachache. Bacillus cereus produces a toxin called cereulide, which laboratory studies have shown can damage the mitochondria, the powerhouses inside your cells. Mitochondrial dysfunction is recognized as one of the early biological events that can contribute to malignant cellular transformation. When your mitochondria are damaged, your cells cannot produce energy efficiently, and they cannot regulate apoptosis, the programmed cell death that prevents damaged cells from multiplying. There is also a second concern. When starchy foods like rice are reheated, the natural sugars react with an amino acid called asparagine under high heat to form acrylamide. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen. Acrylamide has been shown to cause cancer in animal studies, and epidemiological research has suggested a link between high acrylamide intake and an increased risk of several types of cancer, including endometrial and ovarian cancer. So what is the solution? Cook rice fresh whenever you can. If you must store it, cool it rapidly. Spread it out on a shallow tray immediately after cooking so it cools quickly. Refrigerate it within 1 hour. Consume it within 24 hours. And never reheat rice more than once. Once is already risky enough. A second reheating is simply compounding the danger. Now, let us move to the second food, one that is almost universally considered a health food: cooked chicken. Chicken is the go-to protein for millions of people trying to eat healthy. It is lean, it is versatile, and it is relatively affordable. Bodybuilders, dietitians, and health-conscious families all recommend it and frequently build their meals around it. And when leftover chicken ends up in the refrigerator, almost everyone reheats it. This is where the problem begins. When proteins, particularly those found in animal muscle tissue, are exposed to high temperatures for a second time, they undergo a process known as protein oxidation. The heat causes the amino acids to break down and react with oxygen. One consequence of this process is the formation of compounds called heterocyclic amines. HCAs are not a controversial topic in nutrition science. They are among the most extensively researched dietary carcinogens in the scientific literature. Once HCAs enter the body, liver enzymes metabolize them into highly reactive compounds that can bind directly to DNA. This interaction with DNA can produce genetic mutations. Mutations affecting critical genes, especially tumor suppressor genes, represent one of the primary mechanisms through which cancer begins. It is not a simple process, but it is a well-documented one. The science is clear. HCAs are dangerous. A landmark study published in the journal Carcinogenesis found that individuals who frequently consumed well-done or reheated poultry had a statistically significant increase in the risk of colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is the third most common cancer worldwide, responsible for nearly 1 million deaths every year. Another analysis conducted by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health found that frequent consumption of reheated processed chicken was associated with an increased risk of pancreatic cancer, one of the deadliest forms of cancer, with a 5-year survival rate of only 11%. The solution is to avoid reheating chicken at high temperatures. If you have leftover chicken, consider eating it cold in a salad or a wrap. Cold chicken is perfectly safe and actually quite delicious. If you absolutely must reheat it, use a low-temperature oven instead of a microwave. A gentle reheating at 250 degrees Fahrenheit can significantly reduce the formation of HC as compared to a high-heat blast in the microwave. But the safest option is to eat it cold. Your health is worth the slight inconvenience. The third food on our list is perhaps the most shocking because it is celebrated as one of the healthiest foods on earth. Spinach. Spinach is packed with iron, folate, and powerful antioxidants. Nutritionists, oncologists, and cardiologists consistently recommend eating more spinach. It is the superfood of superfoods. And they are right, as long as you eat it fresh or immediately after cooking. The problem arises when you store and reheat cooked spinach. Spinach, along with celery, beets, lettuce, and Swiss chard, is among the richest dietary sources of naturally occurring nitrates. In their natural form, these nitrates are actually beneficial. They help support cardiovascular health and contribute to healthy blood pressure regulation. However, once you cook spinach and refrigerate it, naturally occurring bacteria on the surface of the leaves begin converting those nitrates into nitrites. This is the same chemical conversion that occurs in cured meats. It is also one of the reasons the World Health Organization classified processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen in 2015. When you reheat the spinach, the heat causes those nitrites to react with amino acids present in the spinach and later in your stomach to produce nitrosamines. Nitrosamines are among the most potent dietary carcinogens identified by modern science. Animal studies have shown that they can induce cancer at remarkably low doses. In addition, epidemiological research consistently associates high nitrosamine exposure with an increased risk of gastric, esophageal, and colorectal cancers. The irony is devastating. One of the healthiest foods on earth can become a source of carcinogenic compounds simply because of a common storage and reheating habit. The European Food Safety Authority has issued formal guidance regarding dietary exposure to nitrates and nitrites from vegetables, specifically warning about the potential risks associated with reheating nitrate-rich vegetables after they have been stored following cooking. This is not a hypothetical concern. This is official guidance from a major public health agency. The solution is to cook spinach fresh and eat it immediately. If you have leftovers, consume them cold. Do not refrigerate cooked spinach with the intention of reheating it. It is simply not worth the risk. If you absolutely must store it, keep it in an airtight container, consume it within 6 hours, and do not reheat it. And finally, the fourth food, the one that will surprise you the most. Eggs. Eggs are among the most nutritionally complete foods in existence. They contain all 9 essential amino acids. They are an excellent source of choline, an essential nutrient that supports brain function. They provide significant amounts of selenium, an important mineral involved in antioxidant defense. And they also contain lutein and zeaxanthin, 2 antioxidants that help protect both eye health and cellular health. By almost every nutritional standard, eggs are one of the healthiest foods you can eat. However, reheating eggs, especially scrambled eggs or hard-boiled eggs, creates a specific chemical problem that very few people discuss. Eggs contain approximately 13% fat, with most of that fat concentrated in the yolk. When an egg is cooked for the first time, the fats in the yolk undergo an initial stage of oxidation. This is a normal and expected process. When you refrigerate that cooked egg and then reheat it at a high temperature, those already oxidized fats undergo secondary lipid oxidation at a much faster rate. The byproducts of this process include oxysterols, which are oxidized forms of cholesterol. A comprehensive review published in the journal Food and Chemical Toxicology concluded that oxysterols possess pro-inflammatory, pro-atherogenic, and most importantly, cytotoxic and genotoxic effects on human cells. Genotoxic. That word is extremely important. It means toxic to the genetic material inside your cells, your DNA. By definition, genotoxic compounds are considered potential carcinogens because they can produce DNA strand breaks and genetic mutations that initiate the chain of events leading to cancer. There is another concern associated with reheated eggs. When cooked egg proteins are exposed to excessive heat for a second time, particularly during rapid microwave reheating, they undergo additional protein denaturation. These proteins form abnormal crosslinks that make them more difficult for your digestive system to break down. Even more importantly, some research suggests that the sulfur-containing amino acids naturally present in eggs can degrade during repeated heating. The degradation products formed from these amino acids may contribute to oxidative stress within the lining of the digestive tract. Persistent oxidative stress in the gastrointestinal mucosa is considered one of the major proposed mechanisms involved in the development of colorectal cancer. The solution is to eat eggs fresh. If you prepare them in advance, eat them cold. Never microwave scrambled eggs. If you absolutely need to warm an egg-based dish, use gentle indirect heat. Do not exceed 165 degrees Fahrenheit. What I have just shared with you is not hidden information. It has been published in peer-reviewed journals. It has been confirmed by public health agencies. Yet it rarely reaches the dinner table. We live in a world where convenience has overtaken caution. We have normalized the practice of batch cooking and reheating. We do it without thinking. But now, you know the truth. You are not being alarmist by changing your habits. You are being informed. The science is clear. The compounds formed during the reheating of these 4 foods are real. The risks are measurable. And the solutions are simple. So, I want to leave you with this thought. Think about someone in your life who reheats leftovers without a second thought. Maybe it is a parent, a sibling, or a friend. They do not know what you know now. And you can change that in less than 10 seconds by sharing this information with them. Not to frighten them, but to empower them. Because prevention starts with knowledge, and the research is real, the risks are real, and the solutions are simple. Thank you for watching.